So the movie that I watched was called Piku, and it was suggested to us by Eshna, and she said it was her all-time favourite, so I decided to give it a go. So Piku is the story about a short-tempered woman, Piku, and her hypochondriac grumpy father, who along with their driver Rana go on a journey from Delhi to Kolkata. So my initial reaction to watching the movie was that there are three main actors, Deepika Padukone, Amitabh Bachchan and Irfan Khan, who are very famous and are quite well known in the mainstream industry. However, this film is quite indie in comparison to that, and these actors are actually well known to choose different narratives and ones that aren't as well portrayed in the Bollywood media. So I was excited to keep watching that. The first thing I noticed about this movie was that there was no song and dance. In fact, there was no dances at all, just some songs for montage scenes, which is not very typical of Bollywood movies at all. For example, when you see mainstream movies like Ram Leela or Student of the Year, these are very important in the narrative and how audiences expect to see these movies. But I like that there wasn't any of these sequences, because I feel like it would have taken away from the narrative and how normal the story is, and how the story relates to the relationship between a father and daughter. There is no major storyline to the film. It is just about their journey, the father and daughter's journey from Delhi to Kolkata, and about the father's constipation and how concerned he is with his health and everything to do with his stomach and his bowel movements, which is really weird but really funny to see. And the movie has so much comedic value, and it's not intentionally funny, it's funny because of the everyday situations and how normal it is. For example, at the beginning of the movie, Bhaskar sends Piku a message to her workplace about his bowel movements, and she gets so angry about it, but it's hilarious because she's reading out this message in front of all her colleagues. There are also some really key themes covered in the movie. One that really stuck out to me was emotional blackmail. There's a really nice little scene that covers it where Rana, the driver, goes off at Bhaskar about how he emotionally blackmails people to do everything for him. She cares for him and it stops her life and her relationships just to be around for him and take care of him. And this isn't touched on a lot, but there is one other mainstream movie I can think of, Dil To Rakhne Do, which covers it. It also touches on gender equality quite nicely. There's a small scene where when they've reached Kolkata, and he's talking to his sister-in-law, and he tells her that he got her this job in the past that was really good and paid really well, and he asked her why she didn't take it, and the reason was because she would be earning more than her husband. And I feel like that's something that's not questioned a lot, but it's such a big part of Indian culture, and it was nice to see it put in quite subtly. It wasn't a main focus of the movie, but it was there and pointedly there. Overall, I thought the movie was highly entertaining. It was funny and serious and just easy to follow, and the characters were all really likable despite their flaws, which they all had, which eventually they overcame. And in Bhaskar's case, he passes away, but he passes away in the way he wants to, and Piku then lives her life kind of in the way she wants to as well. So it was really enjoyable.
Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about the film that I watched last week, Andhadhun, which was recommended to us by you, Eshna. All I can say is, first off, great choice, I really enjoyed it. But the translation of this title is The Blind Melody, which I researched afterwards because I actually did wonder what that meant, and it totally makes sense when you put the two together. It's a 2018 Indian crime thriller, and I thought it was really great. I loved the constant plot twists and the constant surprises that came with it. It follows the story of Akash, a blind piano player who unintentionally becomes involved in a murder of Pramod Sinha, a former film star. And I'm just going to jump right in and say the best standout scene for me was that exact moment when you realise that he is literally in the middle of a crime scene. He actually is playing the piano the entire time, and the whole scene takes place with no dialogue. And it's a huge juxtaposition to the fact that this beautiful pianist is playing such a great melody when a murder scene is right in front of him with a lot of blood and a dead body, and that was a standout scene for me. I remember just being captivated by it, and I noticed also the way the camera was positioned in the corner as if we were Akash. We felt like this as an audience member. We felt we were a spectator watching the drama unfold. So I thought it was really clever camera placement, because you were never the murderer, you were never part of what was the cleaning up and the mess. You were the person watching, just like Akash was. And also the colour palette of the entire film was the same, pretty much the same throughout, except for this scene where it was all blue. The colouring of the apartment in which this accident took place, the wallpaper, the chairs, the decoration, the accessories, even what Sima was wearing, the wife, were blue. And I noticed it at the time and thought, it feels dreamlike almost, the colour and the no dialogue and the sound all together, just the whole scene. It's quite a long scene, I'd say a couple of minutes with no dialogue, really brings it all together. And for me, that was a standout scene straight away. Like, I would pick that scene out and remember that film for that scene, definitely. My probably standout character, who I remember the most, was Sophie. She is the damsel in distress character, and she's just the loving, caring, sort of pure, kind character who really, you get a sense of, I think you feel the most towards her. Or I did anyway. I found that I felt sorry for her. I wanted her to succeed. I felt bad for her. The several themes that are included with this are betrayal, love, integrity, trust, fear. I think it's a whole mixed bag of themes within this film, and I think that's what kept it interesting, and I really found it quite an adventure, really. You went on a journey of all these different emotions and themes throughout that it really tied together nicely once the film ended, and it felt like everyone's questions were answered, or I say everyone, my questions were answered as an audience member. So I think these themes worked really well. I really didn't find much to complain about. I was interested from start to finish, and that's due to the clever narrative and the storytelling and the screenplay that was really well written, great performances by all the actors. There wasn't a rubbish performance. I think they all played their parts really well. They were also different. The characters were really different. There were no two alike. You sort of went on a journey through each of them. Yeah, the constant turns and twists kept you intrigued the entire time, and I thought that's the sign of a good thriller. So I thought that was great. The ending, you always want to be conclusive. You always want to have tied up any loose ends, and I feel like that really did that in this film, except it also leaves it kind of open as well, because there's this constant question about whether Akash is actually blind. My personal opinion about the entire thing is really positive. I think it's a great recommendation. I think it's a universal recommendation. Obviously I watched it all with subtitles, but that didn't lessen the action or make me enjoy it any less. So I think it is a brilliant film. Highly recommend it to anyone else, even if you, like me, know nothing about this film in the past, but I really enjoyed it and I will remember it for a long time. So it was a great recommendation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Today I'll be talking about the film called Masan. The film follows two separate stories. The story of Devi, it actually opens with a scene in which she's having sexual relations with a partner, and they get caught. He commits suicide and it's a big scandal for her. And then there's also a story of Deepak, who is a student, and he finds love, but unfortunately due to different castes, he's afraid that the family of his girlfriend isn't going to accept him for who he is. It's all about class division, and it's crazy to me to think how much of an impact that still has on Indian culture, how people from lower castes can't get into relationships with people from higher castes because it's frowned upon. The most beautiful scene, in my opinion, was the moment of grief that Deepak had when his girlfriend has passed away. It's such a beautiful and emotional scene, and the lighting is done so nicely, especially from the fire and the flames, and he's just broken. he stops having any motivation for his studies, and they actually did such a great job, and the director obviously, on showing that grief and that emotion. I was really impressed with that part. Another beautiful thing to me was the relationships Devi had with her dad. Even though he judged her and he was angry with her for what she's done for her affair, he still tried to help her. She was still his little girl. Devi was also personally my favorite character. Her strength, her will, and the fact that she just didn't stick with what she was told to do, and she just wanted to follow her dreams. She wanted to do something she actually enjoyed. What I didn't really enjoy about the film was a lot of side themes. It's good to have loads of those, but it may have been a lot more emotionally valuable if we just focused on those deep emotions that Deepak and Devi were feeling, instead of all of the things around it. The film beautifully represents the struggles of young adults all around the world, trying to form relationships, trying to get a career, following their dreams. We can all relate to that, but at the same time, in Masan, we see the differences between Western culture and Indian culture, and the rules in India are so strict, and it's frowned upon to do some of the things that we do on daily basis in England, that all of those already difficult things are even more difficult to figure out. Also, the ending was so beautiful to me when both Devi and Deepak had such a traumatic experience, completely different, yet both of those were so emotionally weighing down. At the very end, when Devi is sat down on the stairs and she's crying, and Deepak comes in, they have never met before. He comes over and she offers her some water, and it's just a shot of her and he's not even in frame, but we know it's him. It was just so perfectly done, in my opinion. It was beautiful.